Well, thank you very much, Wendy, and thanks very much for allowing me to speak here. And I notice on the bill there are several people that are doctors and professors and everything else. Well, you should all know that I'm an ex-publican. So I can't promise to be as intellectual as those guys, but I want to tell you just a little bit about politics, and I want you to try and understand why truth needs to be spoken in the public square in every aspect of your lives, and we need to make sure that the truth that we all know is at the forefront of advice, at the forefront of activity, and at the forefront of things that we do in our everyday lives. But just before I go there, you should know that when I first ran for politics, I stood for a pre-selection in Toowoomba and I lost. And I then nominated the person who beat me, and then I served as their treasurer. Now, for various reasons, I'm pleased that they lost the election. One is it gave me an opportunity to stand, and the other one is it gave you, Lyle Shelton, as someone who could steer the ACL. So Lyle stood and beat me in pre-selection. We lost the election. I was his treasurer and was very proud to serve and very proud to put my name forward at the next occasion. So I tell you that just by a way of background in terms of participating in politics. And Lyle found a path that was much more powerful for him. And you should all be very proud of yourselves to be here today because you've chosen not to sit on the sidelines. The ACL is a powerful organisation that speaks truth into our world. It is not ashamed to do so, and you should all take great courage from that. But it's not enough. It's not enough. If we don't participate in the conversation that shapes our society, we will slowly see our education system changed and adapted both at a primary, secondary and a tertiary level in ways that we don't want our society to be adapted. We will see our public service and other institutions move in directions that we don't necessarily support or we don't think serves the things that we believe in. And all of the people who are involved in that have a vision of the world. And their vision of the world, their beliefs, their structure, their thought processes are not necessarily the same as ours. But we're entering a phase that has been spoken about that is quite concerning because not only do they not necessarily agree with us, but they now are in a situation where we're not allowed to disagree with them. Okay? And you should all take heed because the canaries in the mine are squawking loudly that this is not acceptable. So that's the reason why you should participate in politics. Because if you don't, others who do will create a vision for the future of our state that doesn't necessarily agree with ours. So the question then is how to participate. And part of that participation can be just everyday lives. One of the things politicians always need is support, encouragement, and third parties who are willing to stand up and say, no, that's correct. And now I obviously come from one side of the political divide, but in Queensland we have seen what happens when one side of the political divide is in charge for a long time, be it my own side or the other side. It's important that this truth exists on all sides of the political divide. So whatever your political beliefs might be, don't hide the truth that you know and don't be afraid to share it with the politicians. We've seen a decline in Christian values and Christians willing to identify in our parliaments across the country. Now, I believe there would actually be quite a lot more people who would identify and would participate if they weren't attacked so hardly by people in our community, socially and otherwise. So it's important that you participate. Now that might be in an organisation such as the ACL, and that's fantastic, and that's great. But our opponents will immediately try to pigeonhole the ACL as, that's just that view over there. So it's important that you speak in other forums, whether it be a Chamber of Commerce, whether it be professional organisations, it might be your trade union. The truth is the truth is the truth, and it should be spoken, recognised and acknowledged. And you shouldn't be afraid just because you're at a union meeting where everybody maybe has a different view. You might be surprised how many people would agree with you. So if you're in the teachers' union, then make sure when you're talking in the teachers' union and you're selecting representatives in the teachers' union, that you are selecting ones that know and believe and share your values and your understanding of the world and the things that you want going forward. So that's the third parties, and they're over there, and you can all participate in those things by simply getting out and getting involved in your local communities, doing the things you regularly do, but making sure that when you do them, you are unashamed to speak the truth you know, regardless if everybody else sitting around the table might have a counter view. Another area where you can participate is the media. Now, one of the things politicians always seek is the media, and it's very important for the media to have a balanced approach in its reporting. And there are those that would suggest that currently it may be not as balanced as we would like. Well, it will change, but it won't change by all of one group of people who have a particular view entering into an echo chamber. It will change when you participate, when you won't accept, when you challenge, and when you write letters to the editor, and when you complain when articles are biased or demeaning or attacking or don't share the views that you have. And you can do that TV, radio, and obviously social media and the newspaper. And so I would encourage everybody to participate there. But what I specifically wanted to talk to you about today was politics. Because sitting in this room are more people than chose the last 3 senators on my side of politics. There's actually 4 times the number of people in this room than chose 3 senators to go down to Canberra. And the people who made that choice were the Central Council of the LNP, which is about 250 people. So you need about 125 to decide who gets to go. And if those 125 vote a certain way, then they're the people who get selected as our senator. And that's why we have Amanda Stoker, somebody who, we had a good tussle inside the party trying to choose. There were some great candidates, but Amanda, I think, was a very wise choice and someone who will serve Queensland very well. But make no mistake, there was only some 120 or 30 people who made that decision. 10 or 15 people go the other way, and we have a different senator in Queensland. So participating in politics, regardless of your colour of politics, is very important. It's very important because those kind of numbers work on the other side as well. All parties are the same. Eventually you move up a ladder and you get to a room where there are very few people making the decisions about who will shape your community. And make no mistake, politicians will shape your community. Every decision that rules our lives was made by a politician. The side of the road we drive on, the kind of cars we can import, the terms and conditions we can build and own a home, how we run our businesses, the shoes you wear, whether they're imported or tariffed, all of these decisions were made by politicians. And in Canberra there's 150 sitting in one room, 72 in another, and in Queensland we've got 93. And those are the people who will make decisions. So it's very important that you understand the numbers are not great. The numbers are small of who actually gets to make these decisions. It's also the numbers of who chooses who get to take those opportunities to make the decision are very important as well. In my party's structure, we have a group who meet regularly in Toowoomba. I represent 36,000 voters and 50,000 people. And my regular branch meeting, we have a good roll-up, which is about 45. And those people will put forward motions and they will stand for executive positions and they will be involved actively in the machinery of my party. We have about another 200 or so that are out there that are supporters that will be less active but maybe turn up on polling day and do different things. But those people are really important because the chairman of my branch gets to go to conference, and so does some of the executive. And at conference there'll be 600 or so people from all over Queensland who support my side of politics. They've all come from little branches all over the state. They've all come with their ideas and the things they want to see and how they aspire for their vision for the future of Queensland. And those motions then get debated amongst the 600. And then we vote. And so if you have a bit over 300 people in that room, your motion will become party policy. Once it becomes party policy, it's put on a platform, and that platform will then go forward to the parliamentary wing. So 600 people, some 300 can carry a motion representing one side of politics that will change the destiny of 5 million people in Queensland. And now, even more importantly, if you are a branch of a local chair, a chair of a local branch, you will see that you get to be on what's known as Central Council in my party, and this is 300 odd people, maybe 250, depending on how many come to a meeting. And they will select senators. They will look after the machinery of the party. But more than that, the people who are there will select often, and there are many different ways you can end up on state executive, but eventually people end up on state executive. So there are some 25 odd people on state executive, and they themselves will vote at every pre-selection. They will travel around the state. They will represent the party platform, and they will get to make decisions about where the party's heading and how it operates. And I can talk about my party, but this is the same for all political parties. So don't think I'm being partisan here. Engage in your political system. If you find a party that talks to your values and you find a party that you're comfortable with, then you should engage. Because if you don't, those that will be the ones who get to choose the people who make the decisions for the 5 million in Queensland. So once we've chosen those, we get to political representatives such as myself. And in our parliament here in Queensland, there are 93, so the magic number really is 47. If you get 47 people elected, you get to run the state. You get to choose what's taught in schools and how it's taught. You get to choose what we're allowed to say in the public square and what we're not allowed to say in the public square. You get to make all the rules that govern people's lives in so many ways. You also get to do some fun stuff, you know, building infrastructure and doing these different things. But the social and moral welfare of the state and the framework that guides it is held by the people in that parliament. And 47 is the number you need. So if we go to the abortion debate last year, 47 was the number that we were chasing to try and hold the tide of that insidious bill. And we couldn't get there because people were sitting in that room who haven't heard your voice. They haven't heard the truth. They haven't got a clear understanding. When they were chosen to represent, they were chosen by people other than yourselves. So it's very important that with the body politic that you get involved, because as the pyramid gets smaller, the numbers get smaller. In my situation, as a shadow cabinet minister, there are 18 of us in the room. 18 people that are the alternate government. Those 18 people were all selected by, roughly speaking, maybe 200 in their local electorate area, where 100 or more people on one side of the vote would be enough to get them elected. And those people will then govern the state on your behalves. My job is to serve and represent the people of my electorate and the people of Queensland. And to do that, I have to win a pre-selection. And as I said, the first time I lost to a better man, Lyle beat me. He didn't stand the second time, which was good for me. But it's important that you understand these numbers are not massive and you are responsible. If you're not involved, then the outcome you cannot complain about. And turning up and voting one day on polling day, well, yeah, there's a lot of people who will do that. There are some people who will put a sign in their yard. There are some people who will hand out. I have some volunteers in my electorate who have just letterboxed 15,000 houses with personally addressed letters because they chose to make sure that I have a good foundation for the next election. So I ask you, as you consider how you want Queensland to look, to consider being involved in politics. And of course, I would love it if you all moved to Toowoomba and joined my branch. But if you did, we would only have one voice out of the 93 that are needed in Queensland and the 47 you need to be able to govern the future. So it's very important that you participate. And as I say, of course, I come from one side of politics, but be involved in politics because I have a vision for Queensland that drives me forward, and it's based around children, it's based around family, it's based around the lifestyle that I want my children to have, the capacity that they should have to be in the world, to be free, to think and act as they need to be themselves, and they should not be afraid of expressing the truth. The consequence of not participating is that a small number of other people who have a different vision of the world, have a different version of what they perceive the truth to be, will get to make the decisions and the rules and the way that our legal system will work to run your lives. Every single aspect of your lives, your children's lives, and their children going forward. So the reason I wanted to come along today was not only to honour Wendy, because she is a fantastic advocate for the ACL and for the truth in the public square here in Queensland, and sometimes has to pay a price for that, as people will get online and attack and people will suggest and say things that are not nice. But they are not reasons not to participate. So, Wendy, I do honour you and I do thank you for what you do in Queensland. And look, we haven't won every fight, but we are still here and we are still fighting. And the opportunity for you to participate in that fight at many different levels, whether it be in the third-party groups and where in your workplace, whether it be through the media and other things. Don't enter an echo chamber. Get out there and debate the people who disagree with us. Tell them what we know. Let them understand that there is a better way. And I have a final challenge for everybody here. People often tell me politics and religion don't mix. Well, the challenge is to go to the Queensland Parliament as a visitor, have a look, have a listen. And as you walk upstairs to the visitors' gallery, there are 2 stained glass windows either side of the stairs. Read the Psalms that are written on those windows, because the people who built our Parliament had a view of the world that I share. Thank you very much.